What do you want to see from these guys this weekend after what had to have been disappointment on Tuesday and last weekend?
Yeah, I think the disappointment is, the expectations that the team puts on themselves, and we have such a great fan base. The game is so set up and primed to just be an epic tight game, and we just had a couple of pitchers that didn't show up. So I think more than anything is to maintain our consistency offensively, continue to play great defense, get the starting pitching that we expect, and then have guys be consistent out of the bullpen. Not trying to be great, not trying to be someone they're not, but to be consistent. And if they do that, they'll have success.
Is it hard to expect these guys to take it one game at a time when you have a stretch where it is Tech, it is A&M, it is Oklahoma, three rivals who I'm sure they recognize as rivals and their friends recognize as rivals and all that?
Well, I mean, our game is so interesting because you divide the game up in three parts. And so when you ask the question about how we take one at a time, well, are we talking about a particular pitcher? Are we talking about a defense, our offensive approach? Or as a team, I think that's the concept and that's what they want to do. And I see the majority of our players doing that. And I see bits and pieces of guys that have shown excellence and then have shown the ability to not be good at all. And so you have to go into each individual and find out how can you repeat your best pitches? How can you have a calm and a great demeanor with a slow heartbeat when the game's on the line? So it's much more about that, I think, than the bunch up of at Tech, at A&M, and then now facing OU. Those games are big. I don't think that they look at them as any different than three really exciting type opponents at Minute Maid Park. So I think it's the same. It just kind of comes down to individuals that change the outcome of a game. If Justin Eckhart is as good as he's been the last two outings, you got a different feel of how the game starts and how the momentum is controlled by us. We allowed them to hang around. I thought their first three pitchers against A&M really felt like they had average stuff, but they stayed away from trouble. In other words, they didn't pitch in the middle of the park, they didn't get the ball up to get hit out of a 20-mile-an-hour wind. So to me, it's kind of individualized when you look at it like so. But I think our team is built so well mentally as a team that I don't think they ever get too much of the big picture. I really believe it kind of goes down to they enjoy competing, and they enjoy competing against Texas Tech, A&M, and they'll enjoy competing against OU. Now they just gotta, the guys have to show up when they're in the spotlight.
I know baseball always has bumpy patches, but because there's so many guys on this team who have gone through whatever season it's been, bumpy patches in each of those seasons, does that reassure you that they know that even though they've had a 500 stretch, they can get out of it and still find success as the season goes on?
Well, you look at different types of guys. If you look at our lineup, it's a veteran lineup. It's a majority of them have played in Omaha or they're older players. Then you look at our defense, which goes along with that. Excuse me, our offense and defense has the veteran experience about it. Then you look at our pitching staff, and it's based on four guys that we have one of the best pitching staffs in the country. The other guys are guys that have big explosive arms, but haven't been in this environment. That's the hurdle right now for us, is being able to get those guys comfortable in these environments to be who we think they can be. We've probably got five guys that reach 96, 97. But if we can't command the fastball and we have to pitch backwards with the breaking ball, then we're not getting to our power arms. And so the key for me is having those guys to go pitch and settle down, and when they make a mistake, to get right back in there and not have an anxiety attack from them out.
specifically with Aaron, slider's been fine, fastball's kind of been a struggle. What can you do individually with him to try and get that pitch to be the thing that sets up the slider instead of pitching it backwards?
Well, you're so right, because if you're a one-pitch guy, if it's fastball only, you eliminate the breaking ball because the guy can't command it. If you're a breaking ball guy, that's your number one pitch right now, you eliminate the fastball, so you're not releasing early, and so you're not chasing the borderline pitch. And so you're really better against a good pitch, but you don't have anything else to have to be concerned with. For Aaron, you can look at front side, you can look at lower half. He's very athletic. He has to get to his athleticism. And the one thing, and I had this conversation with him yesterday, he's an extremist. If you say do 50 crunches, he's going to do 100. If you tell him to run 10 sprints, he's going to run 20. And so if you tell him to work on getting into his hands and his glute and his delivery, he's going to exaggerate it. And that's where he is right now. He's really heavy on his backside, and he needs to get a little bit more rhythm and timing in that delivery versus just squatting on his backside, because now he's trying to come out of a delivery without rhythm to get to his release point, and it doesn't work. So he has to understand how to utilize his body without being overly exaggerated, if that makes sense.
With Bennett on Friday for Oklahoma, you guys were able to get to him a little bit last year, but he's off to a really good start this year. What have you seen from him? Can you just talk a little bit?
Yeah, I think he's one of the best pitchers in the league right now. He's big. Feels like he's handing the ball to you. He's got stuff. He can mix pitches. So, to me, he's a guy that you're going to get minimal opportunities with, and so you have to take advantage of that. You're going to have to be good in maybe creating offense against him, and when you get a good pitch, you got to be ready for it. We've been outstanding hitting the fastball. You take a guy like Birdsell with Tech, who's got a plus fastball with good secondary, but we were able to eliminate secondary to get to the fastball. And I think that's got to be a key for us, is just be ready when we get a pitch we can drive, and try to combine those together, try to piece those at-bats together to create some offense.
Did you have a say at all in the series moving, or is that just a call Oklahoma made since it was their home series?
No, but I definitely had an agreement to it.
What are your thoughts about the changing the ballpark?
Well, anytime you can play a home site or take a visiting site and turn it into a neutral site, but still the visiting team as it's going to credit our RPI as a visitor on a neutral field, I think it's definitely more advantageous. I mean, I think anybody would rather play us at Globe Life or Minute Maid than Ishval. So you've got two teams that are good. OU, at times people consider they're just a football school. They're 15-8. They're 2-1 in the league, and they've got very good players. So it doesn't matter where we're playing them. We're going to have to go play.
On Tuesday night, I noticed Tristan was charting instead of Pete. Does that mean anything about your rotation or Pete's availability?
What are you doing in our dugout, Danny?
C35, right there for the press box.
So what do you know? What do you know of that kind of consistency that you see that gives you the ability to ask that question?
I just know that normally the next guy up is the one charting pitches.
Well, there's great observation, by the way. Pete was available. He was available for late on Tuesday, and Tristan by pitch count would have been available, but honestly, we felt like he needed a bullpen to work some things out, so we skipped his availability for a late relief and bumped Pete. If Pete would have gone in the game, then we would have had the option to flip and go Tristan to Pete, which I wouldn't have minded if that's what it would have taken to get Pete in the game to potentially get a save there.
Kind of along those lines, a few years ago, you had Nolan and Chase. They'd start, but you'd have them available in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Is that an option you're starting to think about using more and more because of what's happened this year? Maybe not with Tristan and Pete specifically, or with Tristan and Pete specifically.
That was an option every week at Rice University. That was an option every week at Sam Houston State and Tulane. We haven't gone to that option because we've been pretty good in the bullpen. I'm not afraid to go to that option, though, if it means putting our best available guy on the field, on the mound.
You said on Tuesday night that you applauded Trey's work and just kind of what he had done this offseason. Is that something you noticed the second he showed up for fall ball, or is that just something he's kind of shown throughout this process?
Did you say Trey?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that Trey is such a field rat, and he loves the game, and he plays with passion and energy, but he's also hard-headed, which is another, I think, another credit to his ability to be a good ball player. But to me, he hasn't backed off on his work, but he's found some simplicity in his swing to get to the barrel, to the ball a little bit consistent, which also allows him to maybe lay off some borderline pitches or some pitcher's pitches and some chase pitches. And so he's done a good job with that. And he's just gone to his two-strike approach. And I think the key for him is he realizes that he hasn't lost power. His power is equal, and it becomes a point of efficiency and motion. It's not about a delivery that has a lot of moving parts and inconsistent release points. It's about a very concise, very compact type of delivery to get to your release point. And you see the same thing as a hitter. If you look at swings and you look at deliveries, they're very correlated. They're very similar in movement. And so we actually utilized Trey yesterday in our meeting as a form of simplicity. And once you get there, the ability to be more consistent and repeatable. And so we utilize both sides of the ball to maybe help some other guys. But Trey is an incredible baseball player with an incredible will to be great and loves to play the game. He loves to compete, and that's what makes him special.
Could you talk a little bit about this on Tuesday with Mitch, like having the slower start to the season, and he got moved from cleanup to later down in the lineup, but it now seems that he's starting to get a little bit of a groove. Was there something specific that you were working with him with, whether it be like his mindset or his mechanics?
Well, our players call it the putter. And the putter is when you just dump some hits in, and instead of driving the baseball, or you get a hit when you're not really on the barrel. And Mitch has lived and died on the putter. And I think more than anything is to get his ace swing off and hitters counts. And I think he got to a point where he was just really trying to get singles and just stay in the middle of the field to a fault, where he was kind of overcoaching his swing a little bit. And, through our coaches and through Mitch and understanding that he's got some pop, he can drive the ball in the gap, he's got pull side power, he needs to tap into that a little bit. So probably just being a little bit more aggressive because he's got a very good swing. And then when that happens and he has success, then his confidence is building off of that. But mechanically, staying a little more closed, staying on the ball, but then being a little more aggressive in the hitters' counts.